You're listening to the world's smartest podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of Majoring in Everything. I am your host, Andrea Jones-Rooy. We are here yet again to talk with someone who is totally extraordinary and has done lots and lots of seemingly unrelated things. And we're going to talk about the surprising ways those things connect, or maybe the not surprising ways they don't connect, but are just awesome. I'm so excited to welcome to the show Stephanie Humphrey, who is we already talked about this and I'm going to get it wrong. So a tech and lifestyle media personality, educator, speaker, author, all of the above. How'd I do?
All that. It's all good.
All right.
Perfect.
Stephanie, thank you so much for coming to the show. We were just talking before starting the recording that you were the last new person I met before the world ended in March. I think we met on March 10th.
I know.
2020.
So crazy. So we're inextricably linked now.
We are. Yes. I was like, because you were like, it was a tech ethicist panel, and we all kind of did a live show. And then afterwards we were like, should we have done that live show? I don't know.
We're all going to get COVID now.
Because we were all standing clustered together, drinking beer afterwards. And it was like, I think this might be dangerous. How have you been? Are you faring okay through everything?
I am. It was a little rough, at the beginning, I think, as it was for everybody. But, I feel like I've come out on the other side a better person. And I'm still here. So it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Yes. I'm still here. That's all I could say.
Yes, fair enough. Yes, the two of us, very, very lucky to be here. I don't know that I came out a better person, I'll be honest with you, but I'll think about that. I hope that I have. But if nothing else, I know how to sit really still in a room for a lot longer than I thought I could. So there's that.
Then there you go. If it was only that one thing, then that was what you learned.
Yeah. Bring on the next quarantine. I am ready. I also learned how to cook stew. I ate nothing but soup for 2 months. So anyway, that's what we're here to talk about. Yeah. So thank you so much for doing the show. I thought of you immediately when I was putting together my ideal speaker guest list for this season, because when we first met, you said, I do a lot of tech education, and you were on your way to Harvard to speak to folks about how to be more careful about their digital footprint online. And you said, by the way, I was an engineer for a long time. And by the way, I have a book coming out. And so you are the epitome of the people we're looking for on this show, which is majoring in everything. So let's start today. What is your daily life about? You're on all the TV stations, it seems. What's a typical day like for you, if there is one?
There is none. Every day is literally different. Like today I'm prepping because I'll be on a plane tomorrow. I have a speaking engagement at a school in South Carolina on Wednesday. So I'm just, getting all my stuff together and polishing up the presentation and all that different stuff. And then, next week, maybe, what am I doing next week? Next week, I don't know what's going on next week, but then in a couple weeks, I'll be doing some stuff for Verizon. And then a week after that, I'll be doing some stuff for QVC, and then I'll be hosting an event in New York. But I love that about what I get to do. The idea that, I get to create it, I get to craft it, and it's different enough to keep me engaged at all times, literally. It's just something that, I didn't think I needed, but has been a real treat to have this sort of variety in my schedule every day.
And so right behind you, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, we have an audio and a YouTube, is your book, Don't Let Your Digital Footprint Kick You in the Butt. That is something, is that basically what you go and speak about, or are you broader topics? What sorts of things are you saying on these outlets? It is for
the most part. It was born out of a workshop I do in schools called Till Death Do You Tweet. And in high schools in particular, middle schools and high schools in particular, the principals or the teachers, the administrators, they were always like, well, do you have any other resources? The students just loved you, but we'd love to keep this conversation going and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I'm leaving some money on the table right now. So I need a resource. So the book is sort of a companion piece to the workshop. So middle school, high school, even college, I think, and even some adults and professionals have read it and said, oh, wow, there's some stuff in here that, I was able to do and take away from it as well. But it is specifically for students that have may or may not have watched or seen me perform this presentation, present this information. But it's sort of the companion to go along with that.
And am I fair in interpreting that the message here is, hey, what you put on the internet lasts until death? Be careful.
That's pretty much it. Just understanding that everything is searchable and recoverable because it is. And that is going to inform how people see you, how you're able to maneuver in the world going forward. I mean, maybe something happens, maybe something doesn't happen, but all of that has potential to have an impact on, who you are and how you move in the world going forward.
Well, and I spend a lot of time, and I think anyone who's vaguely, grew up without social media, I feel very, very glad that I didn't have social media. So luckily you're here to help the rest of us or the rest of them who potentially are putting, I mean, look, I needed your help when I was in my 20s. I still need your help. I think is, it's like, I'm going to go and delete my Twitter right now, just based on this conversation. So, okay. So you talk a lot to high school, middle school, college. So people who are just kind of getting out there on social media, but you also do a ton of stuff, Good Morning America. I follow your Instagram 60-second tech break, and you have a longer tech break. What other sorts of messages are you getting out there in the world?
So when people ask me what I do, I'm like, I'm a tech life expert. And I said, my job is to show people how technology makes their lives easier. That's it. It just so happens that it happens on a variety of platforms. So whether it is a segment on Good Morning America, where I'm talking about the latest iPhone, or my 60-second tech break, where I'm saying, hey, there was just a hack, change this privacy setting and stay safe. Or with my newest 10-minute tech break that I do for QVC on their streaming channel, where I get to do a little bit deeper dive into some tech topics and obviously, oh, by the way, here's something you can buy if you're interested as well. But it really just boils down to helping people understand how to use technology in their lives.
I mean, that seems like something that's one of those signs that it's a good idea. It's like, yeah, obviously we all need help with that. I can't believe I haven't,
there aren't 1,000 people doing it, right?
Yeah. So how did you get into this space? What brought you here? Was it observing a gap?
Oh my gosh. No, actually.
Okay.
The funny part about it is, no, I was an engineer for 13 years and just really, really unhappy in that company and with the work that I was doing. I didn't feel fulfilled at all. I was making great money. So, I was very comfortable and needed something and had been looking for something to kind of shake me up and what else could I do besides this? And I felt like just moving to another company, being in another cubicle really wasn't going to be that thing that got me motivated again. And a friend of mine that I worked out with asked me to be in a fashion show. She said she was the manager of a Dress Barn. I don't know if you're familiar with Dress Barn.
Yeah, I know Dress Barn.
Yeah, everybody knows Dress Barn, right?
Yeah.
Retail store. She said, come be in my fashion show. We'll put you in something cute to show off your little abs or whatever. And you'll get a discount on whatever you want to buy at the end of the show. And I was like, well, there we go. Sign me up. and what literally started out as a favor for a friend ended up being, this foray into sort of the entertainment industry, if you will. So started doing a bunch of sort of seemingly random things. I definitely have stopped calling them that because they all did feed into what I do now. But at the time, it seemed very random. I did get an agent. I was still an engineer, but on the side, I would go to auditions and go-sees and do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Reported traffic for a while for the CBS affiliate in Philadelphia, and was thinking about and preparing for what a career in the entertainment industry might look like. And at the time, I had sort of settled on entertainment reporting, entertainment journalism, because I was like a huge fan of like all the gossip blogs. And, I watched every award show and every red carpet. And, I just wanted to be in that play. Who are you wearing? And that whole thing.
Right.
Not understanding that is an incredibly difficult area of journalism to break into, because most of those people, maybe not so much now anymore, because, internet personalities get priority when it comes to stuff like this. But back then, most of those people were actual journalists and had gone to journalism school and had worked their way up from, markets in Iowa and Kansas and different things like that to get to that point. So without that background, it was very, very challenging for me to really break in to that space. So I had a meeting with a man who became a mentor of mine because I was trying to break into that space. He worked at Comcast, and I planned to go in there and just dazzle him with my beauty and my charisma, and he was going to put me on TV. That was the intention that I walked in that door with, and he literally is like, "What are you doing with all this?" Like, because I was, just full glam, hair, makeup, wig, skin tight dress, the whole nine. I'm just going to, like I said, I was really planning to just knock his socks off and blow him away. And he was gonna like, "Oh my God, where have you been my whole life?" And he's just like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this? Why are you doing this? You came in, you sort of mentioned that you used to be an engineer in passing, and you haven't talked about that since. Like, what are you doing right now?" And it really didn't click for me until he said that. And he's like, "Why aren't you actually using what you already have in this media space?" And honestly, like, I abhor the term light bulb moment, but if there had been an actual light, like, I'm sure somebody saw a light bulb that day, because it was so bright and it was so like, oh my God, I could be a tech life expert. I literally said that in his office that day. And
like that phrase, tech life expert?
Yes. I said, I could be a tech life expert. And so he said, "You could be a tech life expert," and started literally working on it that day. This was in January of 2012. No, January of 2011. I believe. Yeah. January or February 2011. Just started working on it and spent the rest of that day, like, just in deep thought, wondering what the hell I had been doing this whole time and why didn't I think of this?
Right.
And yeah, it just started that day working on the brand, fast forward to now. And I get to do a whole bunch of cool stuff in tech and media.
What was the first thing that you did to work on that brand?
Started a blog. Back then, everybody was blogging. Everybody and their mama had a blog. Blogs were like assholes.
Yeah.
Everybody had one. So I started a blog. It was called A Matter of Life in Tech. And I was very proud of that.
It's really good
because I'm so not creative when it comes to stuff like that. But I was like, yeah, Matter of Life in Tech. It's actually copyrighted too for anybody that might be thinking about stealing it.
Yeah, nice try.
So yeah, started a blog and just started writing. And my plan was, because there's always a plan. There's always been a plan. That's just my brand. I'm an engineer. There always has to be a plan. So the plan was start the blog, get people to send you stuff, do reviews and talk about apps and different stuff like that. And from there, you can use that to approach larger publications to write, because I looked at who was on television as experts. And it could be experts in anything. But if you were on TV as an expert, especially as a technology expert, it always seemed like it was the writer for TechCrunch or the tech writer for Mashable, or we have the writer for Wired on to talk about blah, 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 blah. So I was like, so I need to be writing for some larger, well-known publication to get on television, because that was all, TV was always the goal. So I started writing for Ebony Magazine and ebony.com. I wrote for The Rude. I wrote for Black Enterprise, just whoever would have me, basically. I would write for them and then use my credentials, if you will, as a writer to then pitch myself to TV stations.
This is amazing for many reasons, but one is that I have had this idea of like, I'd like to be on TV. And I've never once thought to look at who's on TV and see what they did to get there. Just like, what if I just keep saying it and doing nothing and hoping for the best? So planning,
that should work, right?
Counts. Yeah. This is one of the many reasons I'm not an engineer. So I want to ask two questions about this. So one smaller question, but I'm really curious. Why do you not like the phrase light bulb moment? So excited.
I don't know. I just feel like overused. It feels like a cliche to me.
Okay.
I'm very much, and this is probably to my own detriment, very self-motivated, very internally motivated. So anything that I've ever heard that I've heard come from like a motivational speaker or just in that feels in that vein to me, I'm just like, oh God, can we stop with the catchphrases and all the buzzwords and all and it's always felt like that to me. So, but there really is no other way to qualify what happened to me in that office that day.
So that brings me to my second question, which is, why do you think it didn't occur to you to put those two pieces together? Because I'm with you.
Trust me. I spent that whole day and pretty much the rest of that week, like, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? Because the engineer in me needed to know.
Yeah.
And I think this is what I came up with. This could be it. This could not be it, but this is what I came up with. I think I had so closely associated the idea of being an engineer with the job I was doing. And I had spent so much time there unhappy that when I was able to break away from it, I left it all. So I basically, here's another cliche. I basically threw the baby out with the bathwater in that instance. And I was like, I can't take this anymore. I don't want to work here anymore. I got to get away from all of it. But as I thought through that process, I realized I was born an engineer. I've always been solving problems and wanting to know how things work and wanting to explain things to people and do that whole thing. Like that didn't come with that job. That came with who I am at my core. So why wouldn't I put those things together once I realized there was this platform and this medium that I could help a large amount of people, but still doing the stuff that I think is cool and that I care about, which is technology. So I think that was it. That job really was, it really sucked a lot out of my soul and caused me to forget who I was for a little bit.
Right. And so the whole thing felt toxic, even if what brought you to it is truly part of who you are.
Absolutely.
So did you grow up thinking, you said you've always been an engineer. Did you actually want to be an engineer as a career, or you've always been an engineer in the sense of, okay.
No, I always wanted to be an engineer. It was either going to be that or a computer scientist or something like that, writing code. I mean, I was writing code when I was, 10 years old on a Commodore 64 computer attached to my television and things like that. So it was always going to be something of that nature. I was the kid that was good at math and science. And so it just naturally flowed that would be the extension, the natural extension of all of that.
So did you have any inkling that you would end up in entertainment? You were like, I'm miserable.
None at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Absolutely not.
Amazing.
Like if you had told me at any point during my career as an engineer or before that you're going to be on TV someday, I'd be like, that's insane.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. You know what I mean? Like it was just, and it wasn't even that I didn't think I could do it. It just never occurred to me. It just never occurred to me that it was even a thing that could be done, because you think about, and I think, back then you think about people on TV as actors, movie stars, TV stars, comedians, like they have that skill set. You don't think about all those other regular, quote unquote, regular people that do the type of thing that I do on TV. I mean, those are just regular people, you know what I mean? That happen to have jobs that allow them to go on in front of a camera every so often. And that's really it. And so, I think we lock these ideas in our mind, and I have to break people out of them all the time. Because when I tell people what I do, it's like, oh my God, I'm talking to a celebrity. I'm like, no, you're not. I just happen to have a job that puts me in front of a camera every so often. I'm like, I am not and that was the thing too. When I went into it, I was like, I don't want to be famous. This is, I was very, very clear that that was not the goal in all of this. I wouldn't mind a little influence, but I was like, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be a celebrity. I'm not trying to be Michael Strahan. I'm not trying to be anything like that. I'm truly just, if I'm going to call myself this technology educator, why wouldn't I try to use the biggest platform available to me to do that? And that's kind of how I looked at it.
So it's much more, which is not surprising to hear, given your content is all extremely helpful and informative. It's much more about getting the message out as opposed to like, look at me.
Right. That's it.
Right.
That I can't stay. It's so funny. And I'm not shy at all. I am a tad bit introverted. I call myself an extroverted introvert.
Ooh,
but
that's good. Okay, good. Yeah.
But I'm just like, it's not about me. It, what I do, I consider what I do service, an act of service. And so I try to take myself out of it as much as possible, and just present the information in as actionable and relevant a way as I can, so that somebody gets something from it.
So I want to ask more about the actual messages that you are trying to get out and the sorts of empowering, work that you're doing. But before that, I feel like I need to go back to the dress barn, which is not a sentence I've ever said, because this seems to me, and maybe I'm oversimplifying, but it seems to me, you're on this engineer path. Tell me if I'm getting this wrong. Mm-hmm. You're unhappy, but it doesn't seem like you have much of a sense of a way out at this point, right? Is it that you step on stage for this fashion show and think, oh, I actually enjoy this? What?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. It literally, that fashion show was literally, in my mind, a favor for a friend.
Mm-hmm.
My friend at the gym asked me to come do this. I'm going to get to shop when I get done. So let me go and do this. What happened though at that show, she had asked some of her friends, some people she knew, regular people to do. But then she also invited, there was a woman there who ran a modeling school. And she had students that would come in and take runway classes. So she brought some of her students there to get experience, on the runway in front of an audience and all that stuff. And she and I had a conversation after the show. And she's like, have you ever modeled before? You were great. Now, she may have just been trying to sell me runway classes.
Right.
But that seed, and I don't know if it just played to my ego or my vanity or whatever, but that was the seed that was like, maybe this could be something I could do on the side that would just give me a break and a nice distraction from the engineering work that I'm hating right now.
Right.
It'll get me out of my cubicle every once in a while to go do some cool, runway stuff. Who knows? Maybe that will just be it. So it was that little nugget, that 3-minute conversation that I said, well, let me just see what I can do with this. So I had a meeting with her. I arranged a meeting with her just to talk to her about what she did. I knew enough. I didn't know a ton about the modeling industry, but I knew enough to know that you shouldn't pay somebody in advance to do anything.
Listen up, everyone. Yeah,
exactly. Don't ever, an agent, photographer, like none of that. You should never come out of the pocket in advance to be a model. So I knew that, but I just wanted to pick her brain a little bit and figure out if there was a place for me in that space. And as I'm speaking to her, she's just kind of running down some things. I'm like, yeah. But she's showing me some pictures of some people that she's worked with. And I happen to know one of the guys. And I was like, oh, wow. So let me talk to him real quick. And so I called, and it's funny, sidebar, she actually ended up paying me because one of my, like I said, at that time I was struggling. I was like, I don't want to be here. This cubicle life is not for me. What am I going to do? One of the other things I was considering as a potential exit strategy was fitness. So I had gotten in really great shape and I was certified to teach group fitness at the time. And my goal, the idea was that I would get my personal training certification and potentially open up a gym, specifically for women of color, because there's a whole backstory to that as well. But that was the idea at the time. So I actually ended up teaching some kickboxing classes for her students. For a little while, as a result of this relationship, but connected with the guy in the photo that I saw that I knew. He's like, no, she's a school. She's not going to be able to actually book you work, like I think you expect her to. So think about these people as agents. And then the ball just kind of started rolling down the hill. And I was like, let me call these people he said I should call. And then it just was, they were like, oh my God, you're amazing. Like, when can you start? And I'm just like, I guess today, it really was, obviously, I don't believe in coincidences. So I don't think it was just, like I said, I don't believe it was random, but but it really did sort of take on a life of its own. And clearly the universe wanted me moving in that direction because all of those doors opened and that path was made straight and things like that. So I was kind of just going with it.
Very cool. Well, one of the kind of underlying theories or theses of this show is that saying yes to random stuff can be really, really valuable. And it sounds like you said yes. Yeah, I'll do Dress Barn. Why not? Yeah, I'll take a meeting with you. And you just keep going. And I think you're right. You know, the tiny nudge of the door and then every other door before you seemed, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. So what's the time frame there? Is it like, you know, you're an engineer and at some point you say, I'm not happy and you're looking for a way out and you're thinking about fitness and then this sort of happens. I mean, how many years of kind of floating in between all of these was there?
It was kind of a lot. I would say all of this, maybe 4 years. Okay. I don't think it was more than 5. I can tell you it took me about a year and a half, almost 2 years to leave my job once I decided, because there was a point, because I had, like I said, I was doing all of these things.
Right.
And, you know, to my job's credit, I was able to actually start cutting back on some of my hours and keep full benefits. So it was a blessing to be able to say, you know what, I think I'm only going to work 30 hours a week so I can go on more auditions, or I think I'm only going to work 3 days a week, you know, so I can do more stuff outside of here. And at the point that I left, I was down to 20 hours a week as an engineer with full benefits, like just straddling, you know, the line or whatever. But from the point where I said, I think I can make this work as a career, to the point where I walked out that door was almost 2 years.
Was that why 2 years?
There was a plan.
Oh man, I was like, you'd be like,
because there was a plan.
No, there was a plan.
I called it my 3-prong plan. I refinanced my house during that time because I said, you know what, I'm going to separate this whole principal and escrow thing so that I can manage it a little bit easier. I traded in my car because I had a ginormous SUV, and I said I need something more, you know, smaller, cheaper, more fuel efficient. I did that, and then there was a dollar amount that I wanted to have saved. I was like, this will get me through the first 6 months. And if I'm broke by then, I'll go back to, you know, being an engineer. But if not, then we're going to ride this thing out. So, you know, those first 2 things happened pretty quickly. But once I hit that dollar amount, it was time to go. And that's how long it took.
How did you feel walking out that door?
Oh, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. I can tell you, it was March 2007. And because of the work that I did, I worked for Lockheed Martin, and, you know, I had clearances and dealt with a lot of sensitive information. It took that entire month for all of the debriefings and different disposal of documents and things like that had to happen for me to just get up and go. That entire month, I couldn't sleep. I was having panic attacks. I would lay down and the acid reflux would come. And so I literally would be sleeping propped up on pillows. And like, I was so anxious about, how am I really going to do this and not get this check and not have healthcare and direct deposit? And like, am I really leaving? You know, it was very fraught. But surprisingly enough, the day I left, I slept like a baby.
Ooh, yes.
Slept like a baby. I kid you not. That whole month, it was like, oh my God, is this going to work? Waking up in cold, like literally waking up in cold sweats. And, but that night I slept in, you know, didn't have anything to do that next day. I was like, hey, this is the life. So, and again, to my company's credit, I didn't even leave right then. I was allowed to take a 9-month leave of absence where they would hold my spot. So that's what I did. I was like, from March, I said, we will go to the end of the year. And if December 31st gets here and I'm still, you know, I'm not living on the street, then we'll call this my new career. Right. And by 2 weeks before the end of the year, I was giving my formal notice.
Wow. Well, what made you push through that month of misery? Because I've quit jobs before and then caved and said, never mind, I'll stay because I'm
Right.
very weak. How did you know to keep going?
That's just the way I am. Once my mind gets fixed on something, I'm like a bulldog with it, and I'm just not letting it. Like I had to see, like I did all of this, and I had been doing all of these different things, and some of it was ego to kind of prove people because nobody thought that I was gonna do this. My mother literally was the only person that actually encouraged me to do it. Everybody else, most people, like my dad he was concerned. What are you going to do? You're going to leave that good job. Oh my God, that good job, those good benefits, that good salary. Why would you throw that away? Like he was very concerned. Some other people were very concerned. Most people were just like, you think you're going to be on television? Like it was really like, really? You're leaving to be on TV? Like, what are you talking about? It was such a foreign concept to most of the people around me. I kind of just wanted to show them up. Nice. Part of it was, like I said, I'll show you. But again, most of it was just, this was the plan I set in place. And I am a very structured and mostly organized person, but when I plan something, I have to execute it. Like I have to do it. It's very rare that I make a plan to do something and don't do it. Now I might do it and fail and have to come back and be like, well, that didn't work out. So here I am back at Lockheed. Hey guys, you know what I mean?
Right.
But the idea that I would plan something and not actually do it, that's just not who I am.
I'm impressed. I plan all kinds of things every day and do almost none of them. So this has been very informative for me. So today, the sorts of messages that you share with people, whether it's on QVC or on your own Instagram, or what are the sorts of things that we're getting wrong about technology? What should listeners know, or what will they learn from you?
I think it's easy to get overwhelmed and it's easy to be intimidated, but I think that's because people think they need to know everything, and you don't. I mean, it's too much. It's too much for any of us to know. It's too much for me to know, and I do it for a living. So, I tell people to just think about how they manage their lives every day and what might make that easier. So if you had a way, like, it's so funny. The first time I got on television, I had this app. I talked about this one particular app that I think really encapsulates what I do and why I do it. It's called Keyring Rewards. And back in the day, I used to have a little wallet, a small little separate wallet from, the wallet I kept my money and credit cards in, just for rewards cards, because that's how many I had. And I don't know if that just makes me insane or, a shopaholic or whatever, but every grocery store I went to, every gas station, every, Papa John's pizza, like literally I had a little plastic card for everything. And I had a
key
wallet.
Rings with the million things on it, or a wallet or whatever.
Exactly.
Yes,
and I had a wallet with all of them in there. So now there's this extra piece of, hardware I have to carry around. It's adding weight to my purse. You know what I mean? Now I got to shuffle through it every time I want to get the rewards card for Panera. And it was like a pain in the ass. And then Keyring Rewards is the app that lets you scan the cards and keep them all in the app. So now I have this app that has literally 30 something cards in it that I can just show to the person and they can go boop. And then I get my discount or I get my points or whatever. And it was really, life-changing, I think, is a bit much. But
depends on how big that piece of hardware is that you're carrying around. But yeah.
But it really changed the dynamic of how I went about my daily life when I was shopping. It really did, because all I needed was my phone. And so it's that kind of thing that I try to help people do and understand and learn about. And, it doesn't need to be a complete overhaul of your computer system, or you don't have to be an IT professional to learn how to. It's just think about just those little things, those tiny little everyday things. That's what I want to help you with, because there usually is a tech solution for most of that stuff.
Is there one now? I'm just going to selfishly, is there one for people like me who can't plan anything? What's the app for me to get my life in order.
I think it depends on like how you kind of learn and think, because there are tons of to-do apps that will, help you color code things or send you reminders or, whatever it is, kind of based on how you feel you learn. So I was to say, look at how you think you learn and the best way you get motivated and supported and encouraged to do something, and then find an app that matches that, because I know there's one out there.
All right. I got some homework. I like this, but I did once. I was like, I'll set my calendar in the order, because we were talking about calendar invites running our lives, which is 100% a great thing, because otherwise I would never show up for anything. But I did it with a to-do list, and I was like, by 9 I'll do this, and 9:30 I'll do that, and 10. And I literally spent the whole day just watching the notifications come up and
take away
and not doing it and freaking out. So
and I think there may be an app that is the to-do list. I feel like I know of something that is the to-do list, but also will build the breaks in. Yeah. And you'll just work 10 minutes. Like, hey, spend 10 minutes doing that. And then take a break, reward yourself with a cookie, or, and then get back to it. Cause that sounds like that's how you probably would work better. Like just start, but only do 10 minutes. And then pick it back up. And then maybe you do 10 minutes of folding laundry, and then maybe you do wash 3 dishes, and you know what I mean? And that's how it all ends up eventually getting done.
Yeah.
I think there is an app for that.
That's definitely it, because I have like 100 half-finished things all around me, and your 60-second tech break is exactly the attention span that I have. So,
and I knew that, because I don't want to watch, a 20-minute YouTube video. That's why I've not spent a lot of time on my YouTube channel, because I know that long form content doesn't resonate with, it's a very small I won't say small, but it's a very specific segment of the population that will sit and watch a 15-minute video. And I'm not one of those people. So the idea that I would make a 15-minute video just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Right. No, that's a good point. Is, I would imagine that for anyone listening saying, I'm going to do more stuff online, probably do more of whatever it is you're already consuming, right? That's like you said with blogs was where you started, which makes a lot of sense.
Because everybody was doing blogs. So now as we're looking at video content, think about the video content that you watch the most. Are they just the TikToks, the 60-second TikToks that are really engaging and capture your attention right away? Or can you sit and watch a 3-minute video or a 10-minute video or a 7-minute video? Like, where's your sweet spot? Because you'll get bored and distracted, and you'll be over creating the type of content if it's not actually the type of content that you're into.
So this might be encroaching on people should hire you to come speak to them. But what are some tips for if we're posting this content, we figure out the medium that I'm enjoying and that's my sweet spot? Hot tips for not kicking yourself in the butt 10 years from now?
Be nice.
And the answer can totally be by the book. So
honestly, be nice. Like it really boils down to mindfulness and intention more so than any technological aspect of it. What is that? There's questions like, is it nice? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Like there's some like laundry list of questions that people ask themselves when it really boils down to that. Like, who is going to be affected by this post? How might they take it? Is there any potential that it may be misinterpreted? You really do need, and I mean, it feels like a lot just to send a tweet, but if you care about your personal brand at all, it's worth it to ask yourself those questions before you hit post.
I think that's a fair, especially, if it's something that you can't even, you're like, someone might misinterpret this, but they probably won't. That's probably not a good move.
It's probably not a good thing, right?
Again, I'm like, I got to go delete some stuff. Right,
you're like, oh, this is probably on the line. And I mean, if your intention is to be provocative, then maybe it's fine. But if it's not, then again, you just want to think about, and it's not about being woke or politically correct. It's just like, but why do you want to be a dick? You know what I mean? Like there's being woke and there's being a dick. There's a lot of ground in between there where you can live, where you're not necessarily feeling the need to police every thought that comes to your head, but you also know that this shit is terrible. You know what I mean? Right. And most of the time people know. People can claim that they weren't aware all day long, but most of the time I would venture to say 90% of the time you know when something you're doing or saying or posting has the potential to be harmful to someone else. You just do. I defy anybody that says, I didn't know. I wasn't aware. Like, you knew, you had that feeling. Our intuition is rarely wrong. And you had that little teeny gnawing in your stomach that maybe somebody might take this the wrong way. But you said, I don't care. It's funny. I'm posting it. And then you got in trouble for it and it came back to bite you in the butt.
Right. You're like, well, it was a joke, and joke means I can say whatever I want. Like, no,
exactly.
That's not how that works. Yeah. So what do you deal with online comments? Because you teach being nice on the internet. Mm-hmm. I prefer when people are nice on the internet. I think generally the comment sections of any website are a nightmare. Where do you see a future where we're all more civil to each other? Do you engage with people who are mean? No,
I think human nature being what it is. And that's the thing. There is a way to engage that doesn't have to be mean, you know, like every now and again, like I don't spend a ton of time on Twitter, but every now and again I'm scrolling and, you know, I see some outrageous nonsense and I'm like, you know what? I got time today. So I'm going to respond to this person and just try to see where their head is at. And that's the thing. I'm never going to call you a name. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to be like, you're insane. This is ridiculous. I'm just going to start peppering you with questions. Why do you think this? Where did you get that information from? So what do you think somebody else might think? But and that's probably just the engineer in me, but I'm going to keep breaking you down with questions until you can justify what you said, you know, to my satisfaction, basically. And sometimes we never get there. But I can say 99 times out of 100, we've been able to part, you know, even if it's been a back and forth and we've been able to part amicably and agree to disagree. Honestly. And I've commented on some egregious ass shit. And you're like, are you serious right now? Is that what you really meant to say? Okay, so where did you get, like I said, but just by not reacting, you know, in outrage or whatever. Now some of the more ridiculous stuff, you don't even engage with that. But if it's somebody, especially if it's somebody I know that I'm like, I don't know this person to be like that. So let me just, you know, or if somebody responds to something I've done and I'm like, but I don't agree with you. So let's talk about this. We'll have that back and forth for, you know, a few tweets. And it'll either be, oh, well, I never looked at it like that. Thanks, Steph. Or, well, I don't agree with you, but I appreciate the fact that you were willing to have a civil conversation about it.
Right.
So I either get one of those two, and then you move on about your life.
Right. How do you make it not personal? I feel like the internet is a very personal place.
It is. I don't listen to any of that. I mean, because especially when I've worked for QVC a couple of different times. And when I worked for them before, I used to get a lot of, you know, very like, oh, I didn't like her outfit kind of stuff on my Facebook page, or, you know, and it was funny. There was one that was very triggering because it was basically calling me uppity. And we all know what that's code for as it relates to African-American people. And it's like, she just thinks she knows so much and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And the woman, and I think it was a woman that said it, and she actually got my name wrong. So I decided to engage. I was like, well, Karen, you know, what makes me kind of the expert in this is the 13 years that I spent as an engineer and the 2 degrees that I got. I'm pretty proud of that. And I hope that I've been able to use that to help you understand a little bit more about this. And oh, by the way, my name's Stephanie. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to she didn't expect me to respond. Number one, I guess she thought, you know, again, people think that you're detached from that because you must be this celebrity. So you have people that do your social media for you. So you're never going to see this anyway. So I'm just going to rant and rave. And I was like, no, Karen, you know, I'm going to respond and I'm going to make sure you understand. I'm not going to respond in the same way you did, but I'm going to make sure you understand. And she was very, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying, and you know, maybe she wasn't such a dick to the next person.
Right. Oof. Well, you give me some hope for the internet, which is a wild thing to say after even just this example, but it's just to me, I feel like it's one of the things I like.
It's a total cesspool. It really is. All right. Yeah. No. You're fair in that assessment.
All right. Well, you're handling it better than I ever could, and certainly better than most of the other people that I'm watching handle these sorts of things, where we just insult each other until the end of time.
Mhm.
I'm a coward, so I would, if someone writes something mean, I'm like, well, I guess I'll never go on TikTok again. That's sort of my my amazing brave
and
brave
I guess
approach.
that's been one of my, superpowers. I truly don't care what people think. I mean, people say that all the time, but I really, really don't. It doesn't get me anything. The engineer in me is like, what would that get me? Or how would that serve me? Or how would that benefit me if I internalized what that person thought about me and believed it? Nothing. So why would I do that? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any logical sense to me. So I'm just, you see it, and I'm not gonna act like I don't feel some kind of way when somebody said I looked fat, in that one outfit. Maybe I rethought that outfit because the camera has 10 pounds. But the idea that I would allow that to change who I am or affect my self-esteem in a significant way. Affect who I was. Like I said, I look at that stuff and I analyze it. I'm like, is there any truth in this? Is there anything I can get out of this? And if not, then there's no reason for me to engage at all. There's no reason for me to even bother, because this person just wants to be mean. They're clearly unhappy in their own life, but that doesn't have anything to do with me. So I can compartmentalize that pretty easily.
That's, I think also, I mean, I don't know if you have a lot of spare time to write further books, but a book about how to not let all that get to you sounds pretty useful for all of us. So one of the things that I love about your posts is that you're positive about technology generally. Sometimes it's like, there's a security breach and you need to know, but generally I feel like when we talk about technology, when we talk about social media, when we talk about apps, it's all about, it's stealing your information and you're glued to your screen and we're doom scrolling and we're all going to die. What helps you be positive about technology? Or are we getting it wrong and just consuming the negative stuff because that's what sells clicks and so on?
I mean, the memes get clicks.
Yeah.
If it's just incorrect information, I try to address it. If it's something that has taken a life of its own, I try not to add to the noise. Like for instance, the whole, the latest one where it's like Instagram can track your precise location and criminals are using that to find, like, that wasn't the case. And I actually meant it. I still may do a video on it, just correcting people's misperceptions about it. Stuff like that. I feel like it's hard to swim upstream against stuff like that because it's been shared so many times and so many people, clearly believe it and want to be the person. And it got sent to me 1,000 different times from people I would have known better. First, I was like, you know better. Like, do your research and stop sharing stuff that you haven't read and researched. But sometimes I think about that but again, I think ultimately, I mean, me personally, I'm like, Skynet's coming and we're all going to die at some point. But that's not the sense I want to leave anybody else with. And at the end of the day, I can, and I don't necessarily feel like it's hypocritical per se, because I am focusing on the stuff that you can control. Right. And I will talk about, hey, your privacy is up for grabs in a sense, but this is what you can do. And, doom scrolling is a thing, but just log off for a little bit. So there'll always be the suggestion to go along with the negative part of technology, because there are a lot of negative parts of technology, but I think, it's still controlled by humans. We still have complete, autonomy over the machines for now.
Hanging in there. Yeah.
Right. For now. So there are still things we can do to mitigate whatever our fears might be around using that technology. So we just need to be made aware of those things.
I mean, as you're describing this, it's making me think, and I'm guilty of this, baby with the bathwater type thinking where I think, oh yeah, Instagram is tracking my everything. I better throw my phone into the river, whereas there's a lot of gray.
There's a wide swath between the river and, giving away all your personal information.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always something you can do. And sometimes that might mean logging off for a little while or deleting that particular app or whatever. But I think, there's usually, some steps in between there that'll get you where you need to get.
Is there, this might not be a fair question, and maybe the answer is just both, but do you generally find that, folks who aren't maybe, let's say, making the most of technology, is it because they're afraid and therefore not doing enough? Like, hey, there's an app that can help you with this. Or is it like, I'm too trusting and I'm just going to download everything I've ever seen and fill my phone and hope for the best? Or is it both? Those sort of seem like two ways to be irresponsible, right?
I would think it's more the first one. I think there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of, I talk to parents all the time about social media and stuff like that. And they are some of them are completely hands off. And it's just like, you can't be that way. You have this child with this underdeveloped brain, consuming this content. You have to be able to help guide them through this process and this journey. Right. Like, you can't bury your head in the sand in this instance. So there's a ton of fears. My mom, I think about my mom and the fact that, she will get on and be like, well, this popped up, but I didn't touch it. Like, she'll leave her screen. Exactly. This popped up and I didn't want to touch anything. And it was, I didn't know if I was going to download. So like, I think it's more a fear thing than anything else.
Where do you think that fear comes from? Because I see it in my data science students and I see it in companies when I speak with them about data science, which isn't exactly the same thing, but it's the same kind of like, it's numbers, I can't touch it. It's a computer program. If I write hello world and I get an error, I've messed up the whole computer. Why do we?
The unknown. It's the fear. It's that basic fundamental fear of the unknown. People don't know what's happening. It's changing so quickly that you think you understand something, and then the next day there's something new to understand already. And, like I said, we were just getting Instagram down. Now we got to learn how to do TikToks. And it's just, it is I don't think our brains are keeping up with the pace at which technology is advancing right now. And so it creates that fear because we feel like we're being left behind. We feel like, I don't understand this. It's going to take my job. Like, you start projecting, a lot of stuff onto the technology when it's not really the technology at all.
Right. It's just that I don't foresee, you tell me, but I don't foresee anything slowing down technology wise. Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, we're on the way down.
We'll have chips in our brains, before you know it.
What are you most excited about as far as looking ahead in technology?
I do like what the potential is for education. I like, and especially as it relates to VR, I like the potential for VR in education. I'm actually interested as well in whether or not, because we've seen some experiments where folks have used VR to try to create empathy in others as well. I would be very curious to, see if we can get a little bit deeper into that, especially with the way our country is, our society. Like, I think we have to do something. I don't know. You can't force somebody to put a headset on and go through a simulation as somebody of another race or gender. But I'm very curious as to if that could work. In some, application, but absolutely in education. Automation. I don't like to see people lose jobs, but I do, appreciate the idea that we can make things faster for less money, with less risk to human, users. Climate change. I think that's going to be a tech solution all day. And space exploration, of course.
Oh my gosh, I know. I feel all my computer and phone backgrounds are pictures of the new photos that we're getting. So that's my contribution to space.
I think Artemis went up today, right?
They called it off.
Oh no! What with the weather?
I don't know. I saw the push alert just before I logged into this, so I actually don't know. And I was like,
I'm gonna have to look into that, see what happened. But yeah, I'm always gonna be bullish on space.
Yeah. What about? I should have gone in the other order, but what makes you most nervous or concerned thinking about tech looking ahead?
The social media. I mean, and the echo chambers it creates. It really does isolate people. It radicalizes people, and it does it very, very quickly. And I get, I get very disheartened at the speed at which somebody who seemed completely normal at some point becomes this tinfoil hat wearing, you know what I mean, person. And our public safety gets affected by the misinformation that happens and spreads so rapidly via social media. So I would say that was my biggest thing. It just the information or lack thereof is just really, really scary to think about.
I feel like this is a whole second episode, but is the solution algorithmic? Is it the companies? Is it us?
Yeah,
that might be a whole
I don't think we're going to code our way out of this. I don't know that there's much you can do to the algorithm that doesn't now go into censorship and things like that. Like, because that's basically we're only going to show you what we think you should see. And now, but that's still based on a human's assessment of what you should see. So, until humans do better, the algorithm's not going to do any better.
Right. So our own ability to hopefully distill correct information.
Absolutely.
Is the key. Well, one of the best ways to do that is to follow you on all the social medias and everything. Where can folks find you?
You can find me all around the web at Tech Life Steph. Got that brand consistency going.
Yes. Tech Life Steph all over the place. And we can look for you on various TVs. What's next for Stephanie Humphrey?
We'll continue along with the 10-minute tech break that drops every Thursday on QVC Plus, their streaming channel. I've been doing a ton of stuff, like I said, corporate stuff, which has been a sort of a whole new world that's opened up to me. So that's been fun. But I think my website's relaunching very, very soon. So I'm sort of bringing everything under the umbrella of stephaniehumphrey.com. So I'm pretty excited about that. And ultimately, I would say in the next 2 to 5 years, I would love a line of tech accessories. So nice. I'm thinking about what that looks like and just manifesting.
Well, I would love to be a part of that line. I like to end with a bit of advice. What you seem to have nailed the personal brand. What advice do you have for folks who are looking to build that?
I would say, think about what you want to be known for and get clear on how other people currently see you. Your personal brand's in the middle of that, but understand that you do have some control over where those circles overlap and how much. And that's the work. That's the work.
I love it. All right. Well, I got some work to do. I'll say that. So a lot of homework from this episode. I leave every episode thinking, I got to go study this. So I feel like I need to go do engineering for about 13 years, but, but maybe I'll just keep following you online and rely on that.
I got you covered. Don't go back and get the degree. Trust me.
Amazing. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for doing the show. Really appreciate it. And everyone go Tech Life Steph all over the internet.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Bye. And that's our show. Thank you so much for joining us for season 2 of Majoring in Everything. We're very excited to bring you all the amazing guests we've got for you this season. Don't forget to keep majoring in everything yourself. And Eric, did I do it? Is this a good second outro? See you next time.